Remember the families in Oregon who suffered through a terrible ordeal today, and those families, God, as they go through, and that you would be their strength and undergird them in this time. In Jesus' name we pray and ask it all. Amen.
Amen. Mr. Canulet.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Ms. Ford, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Dean? Mr. Sharp? Mr. Thompson? Mr. Faulkner? Mr. Gould? Mr. Groby? Mr. Tanner?
Here.
Mr. Canulet? Mr. Belisario? Ms. O'Brien? Mr. Stefanczyk? Mr. Bender? Ms. Blanchard? Mr. Smith? You have a quorum.
Thank you. This time, I think we have somebody would like to move something on the agenda. Mr. Sharp?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to request that we move item 2 under appeals up in the agenda, please.
Any discussion? Please vote.
Motion is unanimous, one absent.
Number 2 is an appeal by Mr. Edzer Jones appealing the zoning commission denial on September the 1st, 2015 to rezone 3.08 acres in southwest corner of Weimer Road and Williams Road, west of Louisiana Highway 437, being 19416 Weimer Road, Covington, from A2 Suburban District to Highway Commercial District, Ward 3, District 2. Mr. Sharp.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we uphold the zoning commission denial of this zoning request, please.
Motion made and second that we uphold
Mr.
the
Chairman.
zoning commission
Mr.
request.
Chairman, and I hate to interrupt, but if we need to ask whether or not there's going to be people to speak,
Well, I'm going to ask that if you let me get the motion on the floor, sir.
okay?
I'm here now, Mr. Chairman,
You can
That's what I was waiting on you, dear.
and
Well,
I'll be counted as present.
Yes, sir.
Thanks.
no.
We have a motion and a second to concur with the zoning denial of the zoning commission. Do we have anybody that in the audience that wants to speak? Administration? Council? You got a card filled out? Who was it raising their hand? Okay. Come on, you may come forth. You state your name, please.
Gregory Fols.
Okay,
I live at 75093 Williams Road. I just want to say that this could have been avoided. You can see the orange shirts. We represent opposition, a very quickly formed opposition. This can all be avoided if it was being more upfront about this, would have avoided this. Because when we don't have information, our imaginations go pretty wild. And we came up with some pretty bad things. Please be more straightforward, follow procedures, and avoid this from happening again. Thank you.
Thank
Question.
you. Any other discussion?
I'd like to know what he's talking about. When you're talking about being more straightforward, I think that's what Dennis wants to talk about. Have the gentleman come back up to the mic.
My point, I didn't mean to obfuscate it, but my point is that simply that this came about through a council motion. There was an advocate on the zoning commission for the man, and these people seem to be working very hard to please this one man at the anger of about 100 people back in the community. If we had been part of it from the beginning and known what was going to happen, things would have gone better.
Well, let me ask you a question. Were you at the zoning commission meeting?
All of them, 3 of
We're
them.
not allowed to get involved in those things while the zoning commission has it. So I don't know what we could have done other than the fact that what you heard at the zoning commission, because council members are not allowed to get involved in zoning cases until they come to us.
Okay, well, I mean, if that's
Okay.
the process, that's the
Yes,
process.
sir, that's the process.
All right, thank you.
Yes, sir. You got a card? Come on, you can come. Name and address, please.
Name is Roy Honeycutt, 19442 North First Street in Covington in District 2. And I'm kind of catching on to what's happening. I come here tonight just to being against what's happening. And I looked at some records, and the parcel of piece of land that's talked about, is that the piece of land, if I'm correct, on, what's the road?
Weimer
Road. And looking at records, that piece of land had been a business years ago. And over the years, it closed up and shut down in a residential area. And on the taxes, on the assessor's office tax, on the assessments, it has went back to no businesses. And they've been having the break of it being no business. And now they want to take and, after the years pass, gone by, come in the area that's a residential area, that's growing a residential area. It's a small area, you know, and you ain't got many of them left like that in St. Tammany. Encroachment keeps coming on. And I'm standing in District 2 just to see that don't continue. I'd like to see that be put down on the grounds that it's a residential area. And
It is a residential area.
the-
That's where it is on the
Right,
zoning
and that's,
board
I just
now.
wanted to speak on that and voice my opinion. I'm grateful to be able to do that.
Thank you, Roy.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Ready to vote? I'm sorry, Dennis, you want to speak?
No.
Mr. Chair, do
Mr.
they
Dean?
understand that Mr. Sharp took care of it and is going their way? I don't know if y'all understand that. I don't know how much more y'all want to talk, but it's done. I mean, we're going to vote on it.
All right, all those in favor of the motion to deny, please vote. Everybody, not just the ones in favor.
Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
Okay, the property will stay at, what it was before went to planning commission. Thank you. Thank you. Dennis, you want to make a resolution to, the resolution after the appeal? You need a resolution. So moved, Dennis and Marty Dean. Any discussion? Please vote.
Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
Okay, now we're going to special items, and then we're going to go to the consent calendar. Special item, ordinance calendar number 5462, ordinance adopting the 2016 Parish operating budget. Ms. Brister?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To council members and you, Mr. Chairman, today I present for your consideration and approval the St. Tammany Parish government's operating and capital budgets for 2016. These are budgets that will continue to move us forward toward the achievement of the goals and initiatives outlined in the tenets of my administration: customer service, transparency, accountability, and cooperation. In keeping with previous years, my administration will continue to focus on public health, infrastructure, and drainage projects, and the enhancement of the tremendous quality of life we have come to expect in St. Tammany Parish. Special projects also include the St. Tammany Advanced Campus, the Cultural Arts District, and Safe Haven, our behavioral health campus formerly known as Southeast Louisiana Hospital. While the majority of our initiatives continue to be long-term, we have made great progress and have met several milestones associated with these projects in the past year. When compiling this budget for your approval, I made every effort to ensure we are fiscally responsible and conservative. And to that end, we made cuts where needed and adjusted our revenue projections based on several years of history. It has been a goal of mine over the last 4 years to reduce the use of the fund balance of the general fund for operating costs, and we have accomplished that goal again with this budget. Since taking office, my administration has reduced parish government's debt by $36 million, a nearly 25% reduction in less than 4 years. This, along with the Standard & Poor's recent announcement of bond rating upgrades for 2 parish-issued bonds, only proves that we have ensured the strength and stability of our finances, and we look forward to continuing this effort in the future. The proposal total operating and capital budget for 2016 is $133,665,097, an increase of 7.59% from the 2015 budget. We've worked hard to ensure parish government has the resources necessary to provide the best services to our residents while maintaining financial stability, which will enable us to best serve future generations. We have recently completed a cost allocation plan to ensure our departments are funded appropriately based on the work performed. Parish operations consist of $75,423,537 of the total capital and operating budget. As St. Tammany Parish continues to expand and mature, our parish government must continue to serve our citizenry and respond to demands for more services. The proposed capital budget for 2016 is $15,490,000. This number represents what is required to maintain current infrastructure as well as the design and construction of new roads and drainage projects. We work regularly with state and federal granting agencies to help supplement this budget to accomplish even more while leveraging our local dollars to be able to address more of the growing needs of our parish. Later this month, we will submit our final application in the National Disaster Resilience Competition, and money awarded from that grant will address major flood control projects and community enhancement projects that will help us make needed improvements in areas which most affected by disasters, ensure our parish is even more resilient than ever before. This is a snapshot of the projects that will be underway across the parish next year. In consultation with all of you, we continue to analyze the most pressing needs of our parish. I appreciate the cooperative relationship we have shared over the past 4 years and look forward to continuing our work together. Thank you for your consideration in approving this budget. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
At this time, I'd like to call on Mr. Stefanczyk, who's Chairman of the Finance Committee.
Mr. Chairman, I'd move that we introduce the budget.
Motion to introduce and refer to Finance.
Yes.
Any discussion?
That's item 1, right?
All right, Mr. Stefanczyk, Mr. Sharp. Any discussion?
There's no vote.
I know, I just wonder if there's any discussion. You're trying to rush me. You're trying to rush me.
He's just trying to go too fast.
Ordinance number 2 is ordinance to establish the 2016-20 parish capital improvement budget and program and to further identify fixed asset and the grants awards.
Move to introduce.
Motion made to introduce. Anybody in discussion? Steve, you want to read the note about how we're going to, where these are available and your schedule, or do we have the schedule worked out yet?
We don't have the schedule worked out. I'll be working with Don this week to get that completed. Towards the end of this month, 1st of November, we'll be setting up dates. We will have a review of all the budgets where we're giving out money to. But the parish will hold a public hearing in the council chambers at 6 p.m. on Thursday, November 5th, which is our next meeting, to review the proposed parish operating capital improvements budget prior to adoption. Copies of both budgets will be made available by October 2nd at the parish council office in the following parish library branches: Avita Springs, Bush, Causeway, Covington, Folsom, Lacombe, Lee Road, Mandeville, Madisonville, Pearl River, and Slidell on Robert Boulevard. Those will all be, and we will be having public meetings. I hope that more people attended than have in the past. Usually if we get two press and one other person here, we're in pretty good shape, but we think that more people in the parish ought to be interested in the budgeting cycle and what's going on. So, thank you.
Thank you. Any council member have any questions? Hearing none, we will go to presentations. Mr. Brister, presentation of proclamation to St. Tammany Parish Government Employee of the Month.
Yes, sir, thank you. And Kelly
Kelly,
Rapollet is going to make that presentation tonight
thought
for a
Kelly
special
got it.
reason.
Thank you so much. I'm really thankful to be able to give the presentation for October's Employee of the Month because it happens to be Mr. Ronald Manton, who is one of my employees. And it also gives me an opportunity to brag on code enforcement and to highlight just one accomplishment of the division that I think speaks volume of not only the dedication of the administration, but also the dedication of the council to fixing a problem, and that is blight. Back in the summer of 2012, we started our Fight the Blight program for our involuntary house demolitions. And since that time, what we've learned is that if we work a case long enough and hard enough, and we reach out to the mortgage companies or to the owners sons if they can't take care of their property, or to the heirs who just let the property go, we've had far more success in getting voluntary demolitions than the parish having to take them down. And I think our stats speak volumes. Since 2012, we've cited 168 properties. 88 of those structures were voluntarily demolished. That means the homeowners went in and demolished those properties themselves. Parish government only had to demolish 13. So what we're gonna harness this model and get more aggressive with it as we go forward with code enforcement, because what we have learned is that it works. The other thing that we have done is developed relationships with our fire districts to identify properties that are able to be used as burning and training exercises for our local fire districts. Again, we get the homeowner in touch with the fire district, and they sign over the rights voluntarily to have the fire district go in there and demolish the property. And the reason why I want to highlight this is because Mr. Manton has taken on this initiative and is the leading example in the code enforcement division for getting these done, because his body of work, again, speaks for itself. He has about a third of all of the demolitions in our program. So with that being said, Ronnie, if you could come up. And also I have Barry Mott here, who is our code enforcement supervisor, and Ron Hagan of the legal department, who oversees the code enforcement division. If y'all could come up so that I could read your proclamation. Whereas Ronnie Manton has been an employee of St. Tammany Parish Government Legal Department Division of Code Enforcement since July of 2012 and investigates all lodged CE property complaints in his assigned territories of Districts 7 and 10 in an exemplary manner. And whereas Ronnie sets the bar on proper and efficient code enforcement process execution, routinely shoulders about 20% of all open code enforcement cases, conducts himself with polite and firm candor, and is sensitive to the physical and financial limitations of some of the property owners, while being firm in moving cases forward towards conclusion. And whereas Ronnie has been instrumental in the development of the code enforcement MPN software, which is specifically designed to link with programs used by the Departments of Permits and Planning. And whereas Ronnie has been a major contributor to Fight the Blight, the Code Enforcement Blighted House program, from working the more difficult cases that require much more critical thinking and diligence on the part of the CE officer. Ronnie's work makes up approximately 1/3 of these cases. And whereas Ronnie has forged an outstanding working relationship with Fire District 3, which covers most of Ronnie's code enforcement territory, he's also helped establish working relationship with other fire departments to conduct a joint training operation on blighted property that is located close to both districts. And whereas Ronnie has been very instrumental in contributing to the growth and overall improvement of code enforcement, Ronnie's can-do attitude and approach to his job are two of his outstanding qualities, and we can all learn from him, including myself. So now, Pat Brister hereby presents the accomplishments and declares Ronnie Manton as Employee of the Month for October of 2015, and we encourage all employees to thank him for his contributions and commitment to St. Tammany Parish government.
Oh. All right, we're going to the consent calendar at this time. I have items to pull in ordinances for introduction. Ordinance 1, 12, and 13. And under resolutions, resolutions 1, 2, 3, and 5. Are there other resolutions or ordinances that need to be pulled? Mr. Dean, Sharp, Mr. Thompson, Mr. Falconer, Mr. Goode, Mr. Govey, Mr. Grovey, Mr. Canulet, Dean.
Mr. Tanner, I think we're supposed to be pulling item 6 on ordinance for introduction, ordinance calendar number 5469. I could be wrong. We had it set to be withdrawn. Let me see here. This is in Marty's district.
And why?
Oh, never mind, let me stand corrected, that's right. It was resolution number 6, sorry about that. No, don't pull it. Okay, I have nothing.
Mr. O'Brien, Mr. Fonzig, Mr. Bender, Ms. Blanchard, Mr. Smith. Do we hear a motion to adopt the consent calendar? Motion made and seconded. Thompson and Canulet. Please vote.
Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
All right, number 1 is ordinance calendar number 5464, an ordinance authorizing the sale of limited tax revenue refunding bonds of Parish of St. Tammany, and that's was pulled by Ms. Brister. Mr. Bender and Mr. O'Brien to remove from the agenda. Any discussion? Please vote.
Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
Number 2, ordinance calendar 5465, an ordinance authorizing the parish president to enter into one or more servitude. Oh, we already did that one. Oh, we're moving right along. Number 12, ordinance calendar 5475, ordinance relating to the use of golf carts and other low-speed vehicles on public streets within Thelma Estates to provide for related matters.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to move to remove this from the agenda, refer it back over to legal for further study.
Motion made and seconded to remove from agenda and refer to,
Legal.
Legal for further study. I have one card. Haven't heard the motion. Does George Haas still want to speak?
Yes, Chair, sir, I do.
Come forward.
I'm George Haas. I don't live in Thelma State, I live in Slidell, but I am a 100% disabled veteran. I have no qualms with the golf carts. What my qualms are is with other motorized vehicles. You have wheelchairs, you now have tri-bikes that are motorized to help veterans get around that have lost the use of their lower limbs. They're hand operated, but they do have a motorized assist, and they can go strictly motorized. You also have the electric scooters. And the way I read this, and what I don't want to see is precedent set if somebody wants to get from point A to point B in a subdivision, and this starts just filtering from one subdivision to the next. So I think when it goes back to legal, that's something they need to take a look at as our disabled citizens. Thank you.
Mr. Haas. Any other discussion? Do you have a motion to introduce? Oh, to remove? Yeah, Mr. Agu and Mr. Canulet to remove. Please vote.
Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
Ordinance calendar number 5476, an ordinance amending the official parish zoning map to reclassify 6.3 acres from A3 to NC3. Mr. Goo.
Yes, sir. Motion to introduce and refer to the zoning commission.
Mr. Goo, Mr. Thompson, discussion? We don't have to, okay. Okay, resolution.
Excuse me. I put in a card to be,
Oh, I'm sorry. They didn't tell me you did. I'm sorry. Carlo, go ahead.
thank you, Carlo Hernandez. I just want to point out to you that this is an unusual procedure being used here. Now, having the ordinance introduced first and prior to the zoning commission considering the matter. And just for your information, the fees associated with this, which I'm hoping will be paid, but the way you're proceeding now, I say it's highly suspect. But the fees that are scheduled to be paid for this is $955. $955. Thank you.
Okay, is there any further discussion on the resolution? Please vote. No, this is not, it's an ordinance? All right.
No,
Motion
you have
carried.
to vote on this because you're referring.
Referring to zone.
I thought because we were referring it, we needed to vote. Please vote. You should have did 12, too.
Mr. Bender? Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
Mr. Parliamentarian, since you didn't let me vote on 12, and it's just pull in order and to remove, we don't need to vote on that? All right,
You're gonna remove it, you
let's
do.
go back and vote on number 12, which is to remove. I know, they told me just introduce. All right, here we go. Resolution number 1. Resolution number 1 covers the series, council series, C4402, resolution to concur or not concur with Slidell annexation and rezoning 2809 acres from Parish Industrial 2 to Slidell M2. Mr. Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And due to some unresolved and unanswered issues that are being worked at this time, we want to make a motion to not concur with this annexation of rezoning at this time, but we do want it to be understood by everyone that we are fully intended on coming back and revisiting this annexation request at a later date.
Motion to not concur. Seconded by Mr. Bender. Discussion. Please vote.
Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
Number 2, Resolution Council Series Number C, 4421, resolution approving the amendments of resolutions adopted by Fire Protection District Number 12, authorizing its limited tax certificates of indebtedness. Mr. Thompson.
Yeah, Mr. Tanner, I'll move on the resolution for discussion. I see a lot of officials out there from Fire District 12. I think we have some questions we need to ask them.
I'll second.
Motion made and seconded. Do we have cards? We don't have cards? Okay. Go ahead, Mr.
Mr. Chairman, my name is Joe Mitternight. I'm Chairman of the Board of Commissioners of Fire District 12. As you know, agencies such as ours are required to have a balanced budget. And based on our current revenue versus expenses, we will not be able to accomplish this without a loan, which is why we have come to you this evening. So I'm here this evening to ask for your approval of our request to borrow through a bond issue the money necessary to continue our operations. And I'm sure you'll have some questions about our finances, but I'd like to give you some facts first about how we arrived at this situation. I've got a couple of handouts that I would like if someone could pass up to the group. Thank you. While these are being distributed, I want you to know that we have the Fire District 12 staff here, as well as our CPA and bond attorney in the audience in case we have any specific questions, which I, as a non-financial expert, cannot answer. The first handout is a small sheet showing the ad valorem revenue for Fire District 12. Let me put my glasses on because this is small print, but you will see that from the beginning of the chart, we had some fairly substantial increases, and it coincided with increase in the population in the area and so forth. I want you to notice particularly the last 3 years of ad valorem revenue that we are actually in reverse. We've had discussions several times with the assessor's office and have been trying to work with them to find any missing properties or other abnormalities that might explain the situation. We have found no significant errors to date, at least. We have our people in the field looking at specific properties, and part of the problem with the assessor's office is the way that they accumulate their information, and the situation is improving over there, but for a long time it was difficult to match specific property owners versus physical addresses. So the bottom line, because of the reduced revenue, is the department is in the same predicament as so many citizens, including myself, who are on a fixed income while costs continue to rise. As you know, the pension fund keeps going up every year. From the beginning of this chart, we're talking about the percentage of salary that we have to contribute has gone from like 9% to 27% of salary that we have to contribute to pension every year, and it keeps going up. We also have mandated salary increases that take effect every year based on the state requirement. So I want to emphasize, as you look at this thing, that we've been aware of the decline for some time. We knew costs were outpacing income. We've been anticipating the possible need for a millage increase or a parcel fee at some point in the future. As you know, we began a new ambulance service last year, and based on our projections, we thought that service might actually generate more than it cost to operate. We thought it would turn out to be a positive. Well, we were wrong. We knew there would be a startup period when we would have to subsidize the medical service until receivables started to roll in, but it has been worse than anticipated. The ambulance service has actually had a negative impact, and the slow pay we have experienced from Medicare, Medicaid, and the insurance companies has exacerbated the situation. The second handout you have is an article from the EMS Journal indicating that this reimbursement situation may get worse. And it is my understanding from conversations with some of the other districts that they may also be looking at millage increases or some other source of revenue, because I think there are a lot of us that are going to find ourselves in this same situation due to the new Obamacare programs that are reducing reimbursements for services. As you probably know, if you've looked at your insurance policies for next year, you will know that every deductible and so forth that the insurance companies are doing is forcing people away from hospitals and into care services, other care services for which we don't get it reimbursed if we are starting to do that kind of transport. So how do we fix the financial situation, I guess, is what we're getting to, and I'm sure you'll have some questions. I want to say again, first of all, if we're going to balance the budget for this fiscal year, 2015, we must have the loan we're asking you for tonight. We're asking for $800,000, and we may not need all of it, but we don't want to have to come back later and ask for more, because first of all, we have 3 months left in the year, and it's difficult to offer exact figures, but we estimate a shortfall this year of probably in the neighborhood of $150,000 to $200,000. Some figures show it may be less, maybe $130,000, but we want to err on the side of caution. And the other thing is that in previous years, we have had a surplus to carry us into the next year. This time around, we will have no surplus to carry us through the early part of the year to meet payroll and so forth until ad valorem monies start to arrive. About mid-year, we began to realize that our revenue versus expense trajectory would not allow for a balanced budget this year. And the board appointed a work study group to examine what action might be best to reach the financial stability that we want to reach without reducing service to our constituents, which is our number one goal. Their report is not complete, and we've got some time left. We have a meeting on October 6th in which we will receive some recommendations. Although it's not complete, there are several options that are being considered. Number one, we are looking at ways to reduce expenses. We've got several ideas, and those are being pursued as we speak. We have refinanced an existing loan to extend the term, which will reduce the payments that we have to make. We're also looking at, reluctantly, payroll reductions. And I don't mean reducing staff necessarily, but we need to take a serious look at how much we're paying for each of the class of positions that we have. And I don't anticipate eliminating any position necessarily, but all of those things are being looked at. We're also looking at a tax increase, and one of the things we will be discussing at this October meeting, and again our regular October meeting, is whether or not we should propose a tax increase. It's a terrible time, as all of you know, to try to get any new tax passed. We've been very successful with having our renewals of our taxes and average about 80% approval in these things. So we kind of feel maybe if we go out to the individual homeowner associations and to the individuals as much as we can, make them aware of what the situation is, and ask them if they would be willing to give us a tax increase that this might sustain us. We're looking at probably in the neighborhood of 2.5 mills, and based on 2.5 mills, the impact on most people would be negligible. I think at $300,000 level of home, we're talking about $50-something a year. So it's not a huge impact on people, and if that's the decision that the board makes, we will do our best to convince people that that's what we need to do. We also have looked at the ambulance service. There's a couple of things we can do, we feel, to change the staffing procedure, which might help to save us some money and try to sustain it. We've also looked at the possibility of completely eliminating the ambulance service and returning that service back to Acadian, which, again, I think would require you guys to take some action if that's the route that we decide to go. My personal preference is that we do not eliminate it. I would like for us, and again, I'm a single person speaking. There's 5 members on the board, and they're going to make these final decisions. But what I would like to see us do is try to pass this tax if we can get it on the ballot in time. And I think our bond attorney tells us that we can, and at least sustain the ambulance service until that vote is taken, and let the people decide whether or not they want to continue it. But I also want to let you know that with the current trajectory, the passing of income versus expenses, which keep going, even if we totally eliminate the ambulance service, we're looking at a difficult time next year trying to make a balanced budget. And we will balance it, but it may take some difficult decisions. And the additional revenue we're talking about asking people for is not strictly to cover the ambulance service. So with that, if anybody has any questions, I'll be glad to try to answer them.
Yes.
First of all, Mr. Chairman, I assume we're talking about items 2 and 3 together, since he's talking about the $800,000 loan.
Yes, sir. I am talking about both of them in my presentation.
Okay. Joe, how many of your board knows about your current situation?
All of them should be aware of it.
All of them should be aware of
Well,
it?
we've discussed it at board meetings, so yes, I'd say the answer is everybody should.
I read most of your board meetings. It didn't appear that in all the rest of the board meeting minutes, I didn't see anything about, until just recently, how bad the situation was. First of all, I'm going to go back and give you some information. And you and I talked on the phone the other day. You know, myself, Dwayne Mesh, I think Chief Gilliott, Steve Crennel, and Frank Jordan all met to talk about this. I'm the representative from the Quality Assurance Panel. Chris Canulet and I work on that, so we monitor all of the ambulance service that Acadian does. We do that on a quarterly basis. We met with y'all back last year in July and gave you numbers that Acadian gave us, and we talked to Acadian. They came from our 911 situation that says this is the kind of amounts of pickups you're going to be doing on a daily basis. And it's my understanding that the people involved in that meeting went back and took our numbers and came up with, threw our numbers away and did their own study. And I think they used probably FAR District 4 numbers, I'm not sure. But they came up with a study that it was totally different and showed you were going to have additional revenue, well, probably about double what we had predicted you were probably going to have. And that was a great concern to me when I found that out after the fact that you did it. You know, and what gets me is you said we didn't know till mid-year. You just got through saying we didn't know till mid-year that there was a problem. And I read your minutes in February where Ray Newton requested information telling you that you're already below the amount of money you were going to get coming in, and you were only receiving 19% of what had been projected. And yet, in February, this wasn't brought to anybody, especially the three councilmen that represent this district. They didn't know about it until just a few weeks ago, like most of us. And I'm really having problems with what we're dealing with here because I look at your chief of administration who's been moving this thing through, and I think has been covering up from the board what's going on. I tried to call your board members, and I don't know whether somebody got to them before I got there, but nobody returned my phone call. You were the only one that answered the phone when I called. The rest of them didn't return my phone call. When you started this process, you know, and I think I read those numbers today that said you would bill $1,500 a run, and you could expect 60% of that, which means $900 per run that you would bring into your FAR district. we know, and Acadian could have told you this, or any ambulance service could have told you this, no matter what you bill, you're only going to get about $450. That's really what it boils down to. Medicare and Medicaid decide basically what's going to be paid for ambulance services, and you really can't, like in the Acadian's instance, they can't go and charge for more than that. They have to bill what the Medicare and Medicaid will pay. I'm concerned because I know you got 90 employees, and and I sit here and listen to you say, we're thinking about still running the ambulance service, but we're gonna make them take a 24% cut, because that's what it's gonna be. I mean, you didn't say how much the cut's gonna be, but I'm gonna tell you, it's gonna be a 24% cut if you continue to run the ambulance service, and even if you don't continue to run it, you're gonna have they're gonna have to take a 17% cut if we give you the $800,000, and you're still gonna have to do that. And then I looked and listened to you say, you want to go out for a tax increase? When this hits the newspapers as to how badly this thing has been managed, if you think you're going to be able to sell your public on a tax increase, it's not going to be that you haven't provided the service. When you provide a service, you can probably get people to vote for it. But when you've done what you're doing and what you've gone through, I have a feeling that you can't pass a tax probably for some time in this district because of the fact that the money has basically been mismanaged that's there now. And that's my view on it, and it's only one view, but I've worked with the ambulance service in this parish for a long period of time, and I have some understanding about what's going on with it. I think your financial administrator has probably made you guys aware throughout the year, and nobody paid attention to him. And I believe he's been sort of shut down, if I understand, in reading the minutes of your meetings. I've seen on TV and on other things that we're attacking the legal counsel and how much the legal counsel costs. The legal counsel not only does your legal, but he does your human resources, he does your policies, and he does several other things which may justify that kind of a salary. But what even bothers me worse is we sit here with this thing, and the district attorney went on TV last night and tried to throw this council under the bus. And I'll just tell you, he said, we are responsible for you hiring an attorney. And I hate to tell you, but the district attorney is the one who is responsible for providing ADA support to all of our boards, and if they choose to use that. Now, you chose to hire outside counsel, so neither the DA nor us nor anybody on this council could tell you that you can't do that, because any board, even if we appoint them, such as you and your board, we don't have the authority, we don't have any way that we can go in and tell you what to do. That's not our job. We gave you a job to do, we gave the board a job to do, and I told you the other night, you better come up here with a solution. And you didn't come up with a solution. Again, you're right where you were to say, we're going to look at all these things. I'm going to tell you the morale and when your firefighters, when they are told that the minimum pay cut they have to take is 17%, is going to hit rock bottom. And believe me, I don't know how you're going to manage something where you're expecting quick response to everything. You're really pushing them guys to the limit. You're saying, we want you to give your best, but oh, by the way, we've mismanaged the money, so now what we got to do is make you pay for it. And that's the way it's going to come across to them. That's the way it would come across to me. I know that we have to give you the $800,000, and I will vote for that. But I'll tell you what, if I had my way, and I don't think we can do it, I don't think we can replace board members, I would ask that this council replace that entire board starting tonight and get somebody in there that could straighten this mess out. And I'm going to tell you primarily, if you tell me that you're going to continue to run ambulance service in that district, I think that's a huge mistake. Last night, at midnight last night, the Medicaid basically reduced the number of billing types that you can do from 15 to 5, which tells me you're going to get less money than you're getting today. And if you continue to operate on something like you're doing and thinking that you're going to get $1 million a year in income from this, it's just not going to happen. I think that somebody in this organization needs to be held accountable for it. And if it were me, I believe I would have Mr. Jordan and Mr. Crennel, and I think I would have some tough words for them or disciplinary action or whatever needs to be done, because I do believe in reading your minutes that they're the ones that have led this thing astray, and it's not somebody else on that board. So with that, I'm going to tell you, I think I've spoken long enough, but I really am upset with this, and I'm going to vote for the $800,000, because if we don't give it to you, you've got enough money to go through the end of this month and probably the first week of next month. And you're going to run out of money and can't meet payroll. And if you can't meet payroll, none of those people are going to come to work. I'm up here to protect the health, safety, and welfare of the people of this parish, including your district. And I think in talking with Chris and some of the people, that's the way we feel. We feel that we have that responsibility. And we feel like this board has let us down very badly. So I want you to be aware of that from my point of view. And I hope that you can tell somebody, I don't know when, but I hope you and your board can get together and tell somebody what you're going to do to resolve this situation. And I, for one, hope that we continue ambulance service and ask for a 24% pay decrease from our employees. So with that in mind,
Can I address some of the questions that you raised?
Just a minute. Do you want to talk, Chris, before?
Oh, yes, I definitely want to talk.
I'm calling Mr.
He's not
Canyon
alone.
first.
Okay. When we met y'all, and we discussed this, and this was our biggest concern. And one thing y'all told me, we're going to do it right. We're going to have the full coverage that we're getting from the parish provider, the whole 9 yards. Now you're sitting and telling me, we're going to make adjustments. When we agreed to this, there was going to be no adjustments. You either run it and you run it right, or you get out. Let me finish.
Go ahead.
The numbers. If someone changed the numbers that we gave y'all, I want to know. These weren't imaginary numbers. These were numbers that we used over years and years and years. If someone changed the numbers on purpose to make you think you were going to make $1 million, I want him. I think the DA should want him. The parish should want him. We were open and upfront about everything we tell y'all. We warned y'all about Medicare, warned you about more cuts every year. Now we're talking magical numbers. Now we're talking, we're going to make an adjustment. The citizens of your fire district don't deserve this. They're paying a millage. Now they're going to pay a bill on top of the millage. So y'all need to get a handle on this, and quickly. And if you can't, you need to come to us, because we've already spoke to Acadian. We're ready to come in. Our goal, our only care, are the people in District 12, the constituents in District 12, to make sure they get the care they need and the care they deserve. And if y'all can't do it, it's time to put your pride away and tell us. This is serious stuff. Me and Mr. Gould had serious discussions about this for years, and we agreed respectfully to disagree, but he told me this was going to be done right. Well, this ain't being done right.
Well, if I may, Mr. Canulet, and some of what Mr. Stefanczyk addressed, these figures of 24% pay cuts and 17% pay cuts are not final numbers. And I know that you probably talked to someone in our accounting department to get those figures, but those are figures that are being discussed. And the second thing I want to address, Mr. Canulet.
I'm not talking about the numbers for your cutting of your fire people's pay. I'm talking about the numbers we gave y'all when y'all went into this business. I don't care what you cut. You got to do what you got to do. That's y'all's. That's your issue.
I-
If you
I
got to
un-
cut them 50%,
I
that's up to you.
understand, Mr.
So
Canulet,
let's talk what I talked about, the numbers that was given to y'all when you decided to do this.
I understand. I was responding to Mr. Stefancic when I addressed that, okay? I do understand your question about the numbers. We did a due diligence study. We considered your numbers. We had other numbers that were much higher, and we wound up with a median number that we thought was a realistic number. I admit to you that we are not collecting the amount that we anticipated. But there was no subterfuge, and there was no indication to change numbers for some ulterior motive. We took numbers that we thought were accurate, and we based our study and our projections on that. So there's no behind-the-scenes effort to get around the information that you all provided. Okay.
Gina, I'm going to call on you, but I have a quick question. You said we adjusted the numbers. Who is we?
I don't know that there's a specific person. It's a staff recommendation to the board. But it's based on what the staff comes up with. And our staff consists of our chief and the two people that report to him and our administrative manager. Those are the people that generally crunch the numbers and make recommendations to the board.
Those are the people that changed the numbers that y'all were given by Mr. Stefancic and Mr. Canulet to a higher number?
Yes, I won't blame them. The board made the decision, so we'll take the credit for that, okay?
Thank you. All right. Mr. Bellis.
Mr. Chairman, I would rather wait, because right now at the mood I'm in right now, I'll start saying things I shouldn't say.
Maureen?
I'm just curious. I understand most fire districts don't have a full-time council, especially small ones. I was told that the surrounding 10 parishes and the closest 100 districts don't have full-time council. Just out of curiosity, why did y'all decide to go that route? I understand he does a lot of work for you, but it just seems to be an unusual procedure.
It is. You are correct. And the initial hiring of our council occurred because of a specific situation that we had with a civil service employee, which involved federal lawsuit. And at the time, the determination was made that it was cheaper for us to have in-house counsel.
Well, let me also say...
And we have continued beyond that just because there were additional things that we needed.
I'd like for you to confirm or deny this. It's been brought to my attention that you are also paying for his continuing education, his travel, and also his dues to the Bar Association. Now, I'm just trying to confirm, is that accurate with the status of your budget? Y'all are also spending money on these 3 items?
Those have been part of his compensation in the past, yes. That's not to say that they will continue to be because, as I mentioned, payroll costs are part of the things that we're looking at reducing, and certainly council as well as the rest of the staff are being looked at for reductions.
Okay, and I was just curious, what was the interest rate of your old loan and what's the interest rate of your new loan? And I want to know, what's the life of the old loan? I think I'm understanding the old loan was 8 years left, and how many years do you have left on the new loan?
I'm going to ask our bond counsel if he would come up and answer those
Before we get into that,
questions.
can we, Grant, let us get some more board members that want to discuss before we get to the
Okay.
bond of $800.
That's fine.
Mr. Dean.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This really bothers me, and all due respect with your history of everything and with the fire district and all your experience, it really bothers me. And speaking kind of as a good Republican, even though I didn't get their endorsement, I had to put that jab in there.
You weren't alone.
Oh, no, I wasn't. There's an email that goes around out there that talks about how agencies begin this big, and then they think, well, son of a gun, we need this, and so we get a little bit bigger. Then, oh, you know what? Since we have that, we got to get this, so that we get bigger than before. Oh, okay, we got all of this. We better get this, and before you know it, what started out just a basic fire department now winds up this big with huge salaries, and that really bothers me. Here in October, we're being And I'm kind of like Mr. Stefanczyk. I think we're kind of backed in the corner to save the people under Fire District 12. I think we're going to have to vote for it. That's what I guess where I'm going. But I really resent being in this position. You all started in health care and in ambulance care at the very wrong time. I mean, Obamacare, everything at our agenda review meeting the other night, you said that you had, slow-paying managed care companies. Well, guess what? Everybody does. I mean, I wouldn't begin to think about starting a healthcare company right now. Everybody across the nation is waiting and seeing how things go and seeing how things flow out. And y'all started. I'm a firm believer in stick with what you know. And Acadian doesn't put out fires, and I think y'all need to get back to where you were, in my opinion. So that's just my 2 cents worth going forward. When you say that we met at the half-year point and saw where we were having trouble, and then now, just in October, you're still thinking about what you're going to do, I think first thing, cut costs. First thing, that was what I would do in my family life. I'd cut costs first. I wouldn't see about going out there and trying to find something else. So, and again, all due respect to what you've done and what, because I know you have a very long history in helping out in St. Tammany, but that this really bothers me that we're in this situation on October 1st.
Thank you, Mr. Dean. I appreciate your comments, and frankly, in retrospect, we probably did start at the wrong time, and I would be willing to admit that mistake. I do want to emphasize that we have improved the time that it takes to respond. We have improved the service, and it continues to be an improved service to the people. Whether it was worth doing it or not is another question, and that was the reason that I personally thought it might be worthwhile going to the public and asking them, do they think it's a worthwhile service and do they want to continue, and if they're willing to pay for it.
Mr. Goode.
Yes, sir. Chris, first let me say that the performance of the guys on the ambulances have made a difference and are very good.
And that was never questioned.
And you and I both were told that they could do this financially. 2 weeks ago, this came up, and I found out about it, and I started doing a little digging and thinking and looking for information, and I spoke with Mr. Mennonite, and, at that point, we were hoping that we could save the ambulance. I was hoping that they could. It has become apparent to me, you're not going to be able to do that. They're going to have to put it on the shelf. But let me read you I got a hold of some emails and the board minutes and some things that disturb me and tell me that there is a level of dysfunction within the department. When the first draft of the budget was presented to board members, staff recommended that no additional firefighter positions be funded in 2015 and that progress continued on funding of capital projects. The shortfall in expected revenue from medical services accelerated but did not cause our present economic problems. The simple fact is that we must learn to live within our budget, a conservative budget. Financial problems began the way the 2015 budget was configured. They decided to go ahead and man, even though it was recommended, don't bring on any more firefighters at this point. Even though it was recommended, the board decided to go ahead and use their rainy day fund, which was really basically the money that came from a rebate from LWCC. And they used that. That's a one-time thing. They may not get that rebate this year coming up. This is the one that really disturbs me. In February, I specifically requested a meeting with the billing company and a copy of the contract. The request was made of Chief Gilliard, Frank Jordan, and Stephen Crennel. My request was completely ignored. This should have been addressed. This should not have been just ignored. But it's a symptom of how the leadership is running. And I'll start from the leadership from the board members themselves, is how it's going. My question is, and I'm going to ask Ray to come up here for a minute, Mr. Newton. Mr. Newton is our the financial officer for the fire department. And I had a candid conversation with him yesterday, and he explained it to me. And quite frankly, my take on this is the culture, and that changes need to be made now, not later. Yes, sir.
Good evening. What can I do for you?
Yeah. How did we get here?
Well, first of all, as Mr. Mennonite mentioned, ad valorem has been almost completely flat since 2008. So you got to start against that backdrop. So we knew it was going to be a tough budget to put together this year. So when we first configured it, we were going to try to concentrate on capital improvements like you talked about and try to limit spending on additional employees. With the station on Harrison on Dog Pound coming online, the board did feel that they wanted to try to staff it. Well, to do so really took everything we had, all the reserves. And that would have even worked had not we had the shortfall on the medical side.
Okay, long term, could you maintain this course of action even without the ambulances?
No, the trajectory, the board knows that the trajectory that we're on right now is essentially unsustainable.
Okay. Do you have a plan but first of all, how big is the hole going to be with the finances next year, because you're borrowing money this year?
Well, one thing we did do, as soon as we passed our millage renewal last spring, we started the process to refinance our debt and extend it out a little further. So that's one of the resolutions that you have on your agenda tonight. That's going to give us a little relief. Our total debt service is probably going to go from about $550,000 down to about $100,000 a year for the first few years. We will have to pay back that bridge loan, that revenue anticipation loan, which will probably be something less than $800,000, possibly substantially less. But anyway, it's still going to require some adjustments in operating costs and certainly people costs next year to make it work. But I don't see any real hope for the future as far as additional revenue goes, because I don't think we're going to get much help on reassessment. I think it's going to be tough to try to pass any new fees or millages under the present circumstances. I've mentioned to Mr. Middenight, we're just going to have to figure out a way to live within the revenue that we generate.
How big of a hole we're going to be in?
I couldn't tell you at this time. The budget is still in the, what we're working on right now is just a very basic budget draft. I don't have health care costs yet. I'm not sure what all our legal costs are going to be for next year. And there's several other things that we just don't know. One of the main issues that we have from year to year is health care costs. And we try to keep it reasonable for the employees, but they're shouldering a larger and larger percentage of it each year. So we're going to have to monitor that very carefully. We do have a budget work group that's considering all these things, and we'll continue to work through that. Now, our budget is going to have to be finalized prior to the November board meeting, so we don't have a whole lot of time to work on it. I guess the next big piece of the puzzle is probably health care costs.
Okay. When will you have this plan together? You obviously you have to have it together. You have to advertise it as well?
Yes, I have to have it together prior to the November board meeting, which is probably the second week of November.
Yeah, second.
So it'll have to be together, well, certainly by the end of October. Okay. And then it'll be advertised. It'll be presented at the November board meeting, advertised, and then we'll have a budget hearing in December.
Let me ask you a question. Did you ever get a copy of the contract?
Yes.
When?
I believe it was in June of this year.
Took 4 months to get you the contract.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Mr. Mennonite, let me ask you a question. I went through all the notes and looked at everything, and I didn't see where a vote was taken to authorize anyone to sign that contract. Was that an oversight, or am I incorrect?
You are correct. That contract did not come to the board for a signature.
Who signed that contract without authorization from the board?
I believe Mr. Krentel is the one that signed it.
Under what authority?
Oh, my.
I can't answer that question.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, I'll yield for right now.
Chair? Can I speak now? Thank you, Chair. Does the board have a financial advisor to guide them in decisions such as this?
We do not employ a financial
Have they
advisor.
discussed-
We use our bond attorney when we start talking about specific actions that need to be taken, but on a day-to-day basis, we do not have a financial advisor.
I guess this question will be directed at Mr. Sluter. What would be the net present value loss in this transaction if we approve it? What's it going to cost to do the transaction?
Let me get Mr. Schluter to answer that question.
Thank you.
Grant Schluter with Foley Dell Bond Counsel. You had some questions on item number 2, the restructuring of the 2014 Chase loan. To answer the question over here, the current loan goes out to March 1 of 2022. The interest rate is 2.22%. If the board agrees to the Chase restructuring, they will extend it out to March 1 of 2029. The indicative rate that they gave in early September was 2.34%. The district has a formula that Chase has offered whereby when they request a final rate, according to that index, the board will have the option to lock it in. But the transaction has a deadline. Chase requires that it be completed by October 21. The plan that the district is discussing with Chase is to get that final indicative rate the morning of October 19th. The board has a special meeting that afternoon. They'll consider whether to accept it or not. If they accept it, they have to close by the morning of October 21.
Chairman, may I ask a follow-up question since he answered my question?
Yes, go ahead.
Mr. Schluter, was that the lowest bid?
The lowest bid for
The interest
Chase
rate?
has to agree to the restructuring or it can't be done.
But did y'all go out to bid on this to see if you could get a better rate?
Chase has to agree to it. Chase is the only one that could provide the extension.
Okay, gotcha, I understand now.
Okay. As far as the present value figure, at the indicative rate of 2.34%, the present value loss is 0.4498 of 1%.
Mr. Chair, I have questions for Joe. This frustrates me, to say the least. I believe we have to put strings attached to this approval, because I'm being told we have to approve it. What I think this council needs from you and your board, you need to come back to us before the beginning of November with a plan on your cost cutting. As far as I'm concerned, you need to cut out the ambulance service.
Can't do it.
Just wait, I'm not done. I'm not saying immediately. You need to have a plan to shut it down and tell us, because I believe that's one of the mistakes, but it wasn't the only mistake. It's a growth, as Marty was saying, in your district and the salaries you're paying. You need to come back with a plan on major salary cuts of your administrative people. And you need to look at your board members at why are you here? I mean, it appears to me this financial problem was known early in this year, and it appears that someone was not telling everybody, but nobody was questioning what was going on. I haven't seen something like this, and I don't know how long. It's told to me it's both management misconduct or lack of knowledge, fiscal mismanagement because the information wasn't being provided. Then we get hit with this. I found out with Marty Dean last Wednesday and sat there saying, I don't believe what I'm hearing. I believe you have to come to us and tell us how you're going to straighten this out. I don't want us to approve an $800,000 resolution, and you go on and try and work this out. We need to establish, and I'm hoping my peers who have your district in their district with a deadline by the end of this month at all possible. You come in and you tell us, these are the things we're going to do to right this ship without significant cuts in payroll to your firemen. When Steve starts talking like that, I'm saying to myself, how did you get there this quick? And I just get upset with it because someone wasn't watching the budget. Because this didn't happen overnight. You should have looked at your original budget, and if somebody increased the number of events you're going to have for ambulance service over what you were told for people who've been doing this for years, someone's going to find out who did what, and if someone needs to be fired, they need to be fired.
Let me address a couple of things that have been brought up. Mr. Canulet mentioned before that he didn't want us to provide a lesser service than what we had, and when I said before that we were looking at different ways to reduce our costs there, I don't mean that we're reducing the service at all. We're talking about possibly using additional firefighters on there rather than outside staff that we've been using. So we never considered either we're going to be in it full time or we're not going to do it at all. Let me in a response to Mr. Belisario, part of the problem that we did recognize earlier that we were running short of money. And we were told and anticipated that it was because of the startup problem with collecting money and that our collections would improve. We are continuing to have the number of ambulance movements that we anticipated on a regular basis. Every day, every week, our projections on how many moves we would have are happening. It's
going way out of line right now. I'm
okay.
going to recognize board members and what have you. You've already discussed this, and we know you're in debt, and you got to work your way out, and but you're not going to be able to do it standing there talking. And
we will come back to you with a response for November if that's what Mr. Belisario is asking for.
Mr. Bender.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Mennonite, thank you for answering all these questions. I just have a follow-up, and I'm not sure who asked the present value question on the council. Jake, okay. The calculation, the percentage that we were just provided, was that given by Chase Bank? I understand the bank is the one who calculated that.
I'm going to ask for Grant again.
The calculation is based upon the Chase indicative rate. It may or may not be the final rate. It may be higher. It may be lower.
So Chase provided that calculation?
They provided the interest rate figure. The present value loss or gain figure is a simple mathematical calculation.
And who did that calculation?
We did it.
We, meaning the fire district?
No, meaning Foley Udell. That is correct.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Schluter, I have another question from Mr. Middernite that he may or may not be able to answer, so if you want to stand by a second. Mr. Middernite, I want to make sure that I understand these dates in these two resolutions. First, the page that was given to us that shows the ad valorem tax beginning in 1996, and it shows how much you all have received in dollars in percentage increases and decreases through the years, okay?
Yes, sir.
This is backed up by the entire 10 mills? Let me ask this question. The millage that the people approved for 5 District 12, is it 10 mills?
The last renewal was 10 mills. We collect a total of 25 mills.
Okay. So this is, this indebtedness here, excuse me, this ad valorem tax receipts, revenue, is this the entire 25 mills, or is this the 10 mills?
No, that's the total that we collect for
This
the
is
year.
the total of 25 mills?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So correct me if I'm wrong, it's not a gotcha question. I'm just trying to understand the finances here. The issue for limited tax certificates that was done, and I mentioned this at an agenda review meeting, one of the things that is bothersome to me is y'all voted on this limited tax certificates in May of 2014. I mean, that's just about 18 months ago. And we're already less than 18 months, at a year, you all were figuring out this is not working, okay? That's a pretty quick defeat, or let's just say a pretty quick a bit of bad news to come within a year of when you make a decision to take on more debt, okay? So I see 2029 in the backup to the first resolution. And these certificates, the limited tax certificates, correct me if I'm wrong, they're backed by millage that runs through March 1st of 2029, is that correct?
Grant? The 2012 and 2014 outstanding certificates are secured by the entire 25 mills. One of the millages, a 5 mill, was recently renewed by the voters for an additional term through a number of years past the 2029, I think 2034 perhaps. And that provides the basis for the extension of this debt through 2029. So they are still not extending it out as far as their millage runs.
I got you. Thank you. Okay, and the original limited tax certificates of indebtedness had a maximum percentage not to exceed 3%. I understand the $800,000 loan is a short-term bridge loan. It has a interest rate not to exceed 5%. Do we know what that interest rate is going to be? You closely know?
We don't know, but most of the short-term rates have been in the 1 to 2% range across the state, virtually all of them.
1 to 2%?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
There's a number that have been done well. In fact, we've had some under 1%.
Okay.
And if I could just clarify, too, that when we were asked what procedures they would have to go through in order to do a cash flow loan by year end,
Right.
it became imperative that the district moved immediately to get parish council approval and state bond commission approval, which they are on the agenda for the October 15th state bond commission meeting. Otherwise, they would not be able to, as I understand it, meet their obligations toward the end of the year. The timing is such you just can't make a loan, as you know,
Oh, yeah.
without those approvals.
No, I understand that. And as others have said, Mr. Midnight, I feel like I'm going to have to vote for the $800,000 loan. I don't want to see fire employees any employees go without being paid, okay? Now, how you go about managing your resources versus your revenue versus your expenses, that's not up to us. We know this. We had another district, which I won't get into, a few months ago, and we asked the question, could we get involved in managing that district? Is there something we as a council could do? And our legal counsel told us no. So that's why we appoint the board. I want to say this for the future, and Mr. Dean, reiterated this. You guys are in the fire business, okay? And I guess my question is, before you decided to get into the ambulance business, and I'm asking this question because depending upon your answer, I think it's something that you all need to think about as the board. And it's this: before you decided to get into the business, you looked at all of Acadian's numbers, you looked at the needs. I'm happy to hear that the service to the people in your district is good, but you got a financial problem. Before you made the decision to get into the ambulance business, did you all have someone already on staff or on the board who was very familiar with getting into the ambulance business? Or was this simply, hey, we're going to get into the ambulance business? And I don't mean that derogatorily, because depending on your answer might indicate where you need to go in the future. So what is your answer to that?
I understand your question, and we were not experienced in the ambulance business. You're absolutely correct. And the person that we hired to advise us and to develop the information we needed was a former employee of Fire District 4 when they were beginning their ambulance service. And we felt that he would be the best one to give us advice, since he had been part of the startup of the ambulance service at District 4.
Okay, and this is nothing on that gentleman. I don't know him unless I saw him, okay? He gave you advice, and once that advice was given, he moved on, and you all have no continuing connection over the last year?
No, he continues as an employee.
He continues as an employee?
Yes,
okay.
sir.
So I guess what I would have to say is, regardless which business it is, obviously you guys do a good job in the fire protection business. I'm going to make that assumption because you've never been up here before with problems with Fire District 12 regarding finances as it pertains to fire protection, okay? So I think I'm going to echo what Mr. Dean said, and that is, regardless of how well payment is going, to get into a completely different line of business, and it is completely different. One's putting out fires, and the other one is getting into the ambulance business, going to save lives. I know y'all do that with your fire department already. But you've got the collections issue. As the fire department, you're already being paid by the people your millage. But you've taken on this extra cost and developed a tremendous cash flow problem because they're slow payers. And it's something that I think you as a board have to decide. Y'all also have to decide, do you have the management on staff to stay in the ambulance business expert enough? Or can you hire someone and make it profitable, or do you need to get out? That's my advice. So thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Bender. I do understand, and we are evaluating everything that you just said.
Thank you.
Mr. O'Brien?
Yes, and you know, I'm going to say the same thing that everybody else is saying. We certainly support the firefighters, and I apologize if I missed the number that a couple of us asked for. I know I was talking to my colleagues a couple of times. What is the net present value loss in dollars? I just want the figure, because if y'all said it, I missed it, I might have been talking to somebody. Just give me the figure. The net present value loss in dollars. Just give me the figure.
Loss of what? I'm not sure I understand the question.
Additional cost. Just put it this way. If you look at what you already have, the total dollars you're going to spend, you then put this into the system and run it out, how many additional dollars will Fire District 12 have to pay out because of this mismanagement? That's that simple.
Over the life of the, remaining life of the issue, extending it out from 2022 to 2029 at the indicative rate of 2.34%, which may or may not be the final, $345,000 and change. Present value of net loss on a present value, $12,000 and change. Right, but I'm giving you both so you have a complete picture.
Okay, thank you.
The real number to public is the 345.
Mr. Stefanti.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we've had a lot of discussion tonight. I think that we can't do anything about this board. I know that we don't have a choice in leaving a board. I mean, we don't have a choice in removing a fire district board, that we just can't do that. I'm going to ask that we consider recommending to the DA to investigate this board and the people involved, the members of that district, for malfeasance in office, because that is a way of removing the people from the board, and if they're found guilty of that, and perhaps criminal activity by some of the employees. And I think he needs to do that. I know he's already been on TV saying something about this, but I don't think he's looking at it from that standpoint yet. And I think we ought to make that request of him. So with that in mind, I guess I would do it after we pass the motion that's on the floor, because I can't put that motion on the floor right now. So.
Mr. Goode.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I concur with Steve's feelings. I really don't have any faith in leadership over there right now. I don't mean to demean anyone, but this thing's gotten away from them for whatever reason. The things that I'm reading, it just tells me that there is dysfunction. But let me tell you the true victims in this thing. It's those men and women that work for the fire department. They're going to end up bearing the brunt on this thing. You know, whatever solution they come up with to right this thing is going to hit those guys in the pocketbook. And the worst part about it, it's going to hit them at Christmas time. So, you know, we need to remember that they are great people. They risk their lives for us. They save our lives for us on every day. But I just felt like that needed to be said.
Mr. Falconer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Oh, there we go. Thank you, Marty. I waited so long to be recognized, I didn't know if the thing had died over here, but the...
Thought you'd already gotten off of the council. I forgot.
Already forgetting about me over here. No, my initial question of Mr. Schluter that originally came to mind has been answered, and that was, when you're asking a question about present value, the real question is, what is this costing us in additional cost to extend the maturity date of the indebtedness? We're extending it out 7 years. My original question was going to be, what is the principal value that we are refinancing, going from 2.22% to 2.34%? We're extending that out 7 years, so I think the answer that I've heard is $345,000 in additional interest expense. There is some present value to that, but it depends on the discount rate, obviously, how you figure what that value is today. But the point is, that's $345,000 real dollars of additional expense, in addition to whatever they wind up borrowing against the line that we're being asked to approve, the line of credit that we're being asked to approve tonight of $800,000, the short-term financing. And the thing that really, I guess, concerns me most, I mean, I'm balancing, this is kind of blowing my mind a little bit over here, thinking that we're going to be asking firefighters, of all people, to take this kind of pay cut when, you know, firefighters are in so many ways our first line of defense, first responders out there. And yet we really don't know what the final tally is going to be. I've heard Mr. Newton, I believe, say that, you know, well, we're going to approve $800,000, but maybe we're not going to need but $100,000. We're actually going to, and I'm not sure how the math all works because I don't have a financial calculator up here with me, but somehow their debt service is going to go from somewhere around $500,000 to somewhere around $100,000. I mean, this is like dealing with, you know, this is like putting a second mortgage on your home and buying a big screen TV and not knowing whether you're going to be able to pay for it at the end. I mean, I think I share some of Gene's concerns that I understand. I understand that they need to borrow additional money to make payroll, which is the worst place to be in. But I'm concerned that at the end of the day, unless there are serious structural changes to this thing, the additional cost of the $800,000 added to the additional, you know, the perhaps cost savings with the Chase refinance. Trust me on this. There's a reason why they say that there's nothing as cold as a banker's heart. I promise you that the Chase group is making money on this deal.
Oh, yeah.
So it bothers me greatly that we are being asked to approve an $800,000 essentially line of credit that will be drawn against with no more, without having a better handle on the underlying financing that's being requested. Thank you.
Steve, you begin, or Mr. Smith, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Joe, I really appreciate all the information that you tried to share with us tonight, or share with us tonight. And as I contemplate having to make a decision on this resolution 4421, and I appreciate all of the avalanche of testimony that has been provided also, and that has helped me out quite a bit to get a clearer picture of what it is that we're being asked to do tonight. And I think that's at the core of where we are with this particular resolution and this situation as well. But when I look at your chart that you presented to us on the ad valorem taxes, and I look at the 20-year period that you provided us data on, and I just had two questions initially, and I think one of those was answered in the avalanche of testimony too. When I looked at the net percentage change in the 10 years of this list of information and the 20 years also, when did you all recognize that you had a problem that has been pretty much brought out by all of the testimony tonight? What's going to be one of my questions, but and I also hear indications from some of my colleagues about what they're going to do and how they're going to vote, and that's fine for them, but as I have to make a decision also on this particular resolution, I don't know that we want to be involved in kicking the can down the road also, and what we decide to do here as a governing body, and there could be implications for us as well. Maybe not from a legal standpoint, but as it relates to us being doing due diligence in the decision that we have to make as well. Certainly, you know, it's been pointed out that, you know, we need to be concerned about the firemen and employees, and that's fine. It's Christmas time and all of that, but Obamacare, which I think he does care, as one of my colleagues indicated, but we want to make sure that we have, and this, I don't have a question for you because I think you've done well to address a lot of them, that we make the right decision though on the resolution that's being proposed tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Bidner?
Yeah, Mr. Midnight, one quick question. All of the ambulance equipment, meaning the vehicles, all of the required medical equipment that you have, all of your fixed assets, so to speak, okay? Have you all paid for all of that? You own everything?
Yes, sir.
Okay. With that said, I would just say this to you, and I would offer a recommendation for you all to consider. You may have even thought of this already, but I would just say this as a businessman myself. I think that one thing you all need to do in the very, very short term, based upon what I've heard here, as far as not the quality of the service, but the ability to perform the service and at least break even. You're not able to do that, okay? So given that fact, I would recommend that in the very short term, you all do an evaluation of what the worth is of all of the equipment that you purchased. Every bit of ambulance equipment, interior equipment, oxygen, whatever, okay? And what would be a fair value, because as a public entity, it has to be done a certain way, okay, to get the right value for it. And I would also, as soon as possible, because I heard at the agenda review meeting, and I'm hearing here again tonight, that Acadian has helped you all in times of need with helping with the call-outs when maybe all have been shorthanded or a part-time person wasn't there. They've taken some call-outs. So they certainly, in a year's time, could get back into this district and give the people the ambulance service that is needed. I would meet with Acadian, and I would try to get your financial officer to provide what are your accounts receivables right now. What are you owed? I know it's taken a long time to collect it, but you do have an asset there. And that is the total amount that you're legitimately owed. Now, coming up with what is the final total legitimate amount, that might take a little bit of doing to see with managed health care and the Affordable Care Act, what is going to be said to, this is an overcharge. But you've got assets. You've got ambulances, you've got auxiliary equipment, and you have receivables. What is the total value to the district of all of those? There's a market to sell all your ambulance equipment, maybe to Acadian. Certainly, if they want to take it over, they would understand they would have to buy your receivables. They don't have to buy them, but it would be customary that they would do it. I would recommend to you, you're the board chairman.
Yes, sir.
I would recommend to you, Mr. Midnight, that I would get your financial person on that. It's just a suggestion, and I would do that quickly.
That is one of the options that our group that's studying the thing is looking at.
But
I appreciate your suggestion. We are looking
listen,
at it.
let's say this one just for a minute.
Okay.
Get with Acadian, who is in the ambulance business. I'm not favoring them, but they are. And they know the value of equipment. They know how much of your receivables are collectible. I think they would be willing to kind of help, knowing it's got to go out for a property sale anyway. They just can't offer you a certain amount for it. You'd have to put it out at a property sale, correct,
Right.
Mr. Hand?
Yeah.
They would have to surplus it first.
That's what I'm
if they're
saying.
going to do that.
Yeah, I mean, you can't just give it to them at a certain price. You have to determine the value and what someone's willing to pay. So I would proceed on that. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate the suggestion.
All right, one more. Jake?
One more question, Chair, thank you. I guess this goes to Mr. Grant, is that you mentioned you mentioned Chase had given the interest rate for this. Were there any other banks that had bid against this, and why and why not, and is there a reason?
Yeah, only Chase can permit the restructuring of the issue.
That's the only bank that,
They currently own the outstanding. They're the only ones that can consent to the restructuring of the remainder of the issue.
all right, thank you.
Grant, while you stay there, I got one question. Sure. Tell me, if this council doesn't pass the resolution to restructure an extension of the certificates, and they don't approve the issuance of the $800,000 of limited tax certificate, what happens to this fire district?
Well, the restructuring is designed to accomplish the goals indicated by the district, and that is to give them short-term cash flow receipt, relief on debt service to the tune of over $200,000 per year. That frees up additional operating revenues to avoid layoffs and severe cuts. That's what we have been told. The 800, not exceeding 800,000, and by the way, they can only borrow up to that amount. They are now preparing a cash flow certification for us in order that we can give the approving legal opinion concerning their projected maximum cumulative cash flow deficit. Under federal tax law, they can only borrow up to that amount. So if that's up to 800,000 or it's 600,000 or 400,000, it has to be a real figure. One other thing they're doing to free up monies for the next 4, 5, 6 years is they're going to pay off the only other bonded indebtedness they have, and that's the 2012 issue currently owned by Whitney Bank. Whitney Bank has agreed to waive the no-call provisions, and they will permit the district to pay that debt off in full. And all of this is proposed to be completed, the restructuring of the Chase loan and the complete payoff of the Whitney loan on October 21. Now, the source of money to pay off the Whitney loan is unexpended bond proceeds from the 2014 Chase loan. The district has stopped the additional fire station construction, and they're going to make that monies available to pay off the Whitney loan. So they are significantly reducing their debt.
Okay, do I hear a motion?
Oh, wait. I mean, that sounded, that was the whole, I mean, that's like a whole new set of cards being thrown on the table. I mean, now we're finding out that they're not going to finish construction, so there's going to be undoubtedly a lawsuit with a contractor who's expecting to finish a station. There's, they got a Whitney prepay that's going to be taken out of unexpended proceeds from 2014.
Mr. Falconer, there is no existing contractual arrangement for construction that we're walking away from.
Well, Grant just said you're stopping construction. That to me implies that
stopping the plans for it, but we have not invested in it.
Yeah, our tax department has undergone an extensive review in the last month. When they did the 2014 issue, they had several fire stations that were contemplated. They have only done one. They have the remaining unexpended proceeds, and as we appreciate, as the chairman indicated, they have no contractual obligations to continue and do additional fire stations. That money is available. They're not going to spend it now for that construction purpose. They can't use it legally for operating funds, but with the consent of Whitney, which was given, they can pay off the 2012 loan in full and use the bond proceeds for purposes authorized by federal tax law. That will free up each year over $165,000 in debt service payments.
Well, I just want to, I've still got the floor, and I'm just going to make one final statement, then I'm going to be quiet, Mr. Chairman. This, I mean, to me, under normal circumstances, is so complicated an issue, it should be referred over to our Finance Committee, talked about properly, discussed, understood, and yet we have an agency here that's holding an October 21st date like gun to our head that we've got to get this done before then. And I agree with Mr. Stefancic. I think that some higher authority should be deeply investigating the background of this issue. This is terrible.
Luke called the question, Mr. Goode.
We have a couple questions yet.
All right.
Sorry, Mike.
Anything new that we haven't already discussed, people?
Yes. When I was restraining myself before, one of the things that we needed to do is bring in the legislative auditor to take a look at this.
Mr. Bender?
I would only add one thing, and I was not going to add this, but, you know, hearing this latest with the fire station, and I was on the same track Mr. Falconer was on, you know, I'm still have a concern about this bond issue in 2014, okay? And I'll let you all correct me if I'm wrong. The only option that you all had to go to for these bonds was Chase Bank. Is that correct?
Go ahead.
That is absolutely correct.
So there was no opportunity to go out for,
You cannot legally go to any other bank than the owner of those outstanding bonds.
when Chase was chosen for the bonds, what was it, were those bonds looked at with other entities for borrowing?
We were not involved when that was done. There were, as I appreciated, a number of banks that were approached, but we were not the law firm handling that at that point. We were called in after the Chase proposal was received, and there was a contractual obligation with Chase to complete the transaction after the district discharged all of the professionals previously employed.
No. The district didn't discharge all of the previous professionals. The previous professionals wrote the district and told them they in no way wanted any part of that transaction. There were other banks involved. There was a financial advisor involved, okay?
We were not involved with any of that.
And I understand that,
That's
Mr.
correct.
Sluter, but this thing is getting to the point to where, you know what, it's a lot deeper. And I'm not talking about you, but it's a lot deeper, okay? When banks, financial advisor, and law firms pull out of a deal, and the fire district then turns around and states, oh, we are discharging you. No, there's a letter there. Thank you.
Marty?
One final question. What was the name of the law firm that you mentioned, Mr. Grant? Do we have a name?
What law firm are you referring to?
You mentioned a moment ago that there was a law firm involved handling the different bids from the bank. What was the name of it?
There was a financial advisor. There was a law firm. I don't recall which firm that was, but you could ask the financial advisor and they could give that to you. And there were other professionals involved.
The board members don't know what law firm they engaged? What was engaged?
Yeah, the financial advisor could give you that information.
Joe, who was the financial advisor and who was the attorney or law firm?
Off the top of my head, Gene, I do not know the answer. We can get that information for you. I believe Mr. Ryan was the...
Mr. Ryan with Government Consultants was the financial advisor.
Let's call the question.
They weren't, they pulled out.
A question has been called for. Marty, you ready?
I got to correct the record on something. I've got the minutes from the meeting on May 28th, 2014, and there were issues about fees and that sort of thing. The board conducted its due diligence. And according to this, Commissioner Woodward made a motion for the district to terminate its relationship with cause as stated in the due diligence report. That's what the record reflects. Maybe they got beat to the punch. I don't know. But I would tell you that I thought they had good reason when they explained it to me.
Yeah, Mr.
And
Chairman,
Come
if I
on, people,
could.
let's don't talk about it. We're talking about something else altogether now. We got two resolutions on here.
I would like to be able to respond to Mr. Gould because it's not fair to leave it at that, okay? It's easily proven that the people involved backed out. They backed out. Now, if you're going to put your faith in the minutes of the meetings of this fire district that's standing here before us tonight, that's made decisions, okay, that have been poor decisions, I said, oh yeah, after the fact, there were minutes to say they were discharged. You need to look into the reason why they backed out. I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Question been called for. We have a motion by Mr. Thompson, seconded by Mr. Gould to adopt resolution council series number C4421. Please vote. Yes.
Ms. O'Brien? Motion passes. 13 yeas, 1 nay, no one absent.
Next resolution is council series number C4422. We have a motion? Second. Thompson and Gould. Any discussion? We've discussed it enough. Please vote.
Motion passes. 13 yeas, 1 nay, no one absent.
And I'm not trying to be, push anybody, to go fast, but I understand, this is a serious thing, and I understand everybody's concerned about it. And, I just, I want to know that I'm not happy either, but, I think we had to do what we had to do tonight, but I think there's some other motions that probably need to come forth at this time. And I guess they would be legal to come through since it's what we've been discussing about, right?
Yes, I believe since it is associated with these two items, I'd like to make a motion to request the DA to investigate the board for malfeasance in office and to look at any activity by employees for possible criminal activity.
Okay. Mr. Fontic and Gould, Mr. Bellisario.
I would like a friendly amendment to that, to add the Louisiana legislative auditor to that request.
You accept
I'll
that?
accept that as a friendly amendment, that's fine.
Any opposition to it being friendly? Any discussion? Please vote.
Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
Thank you all very much. We'll go to resolution number, council series number 4424, resolution to give preliminary approval to the issuance of limiting tax revenue bonds.
What happened to
St. Tammany Parish.
4423?
Pardon? We didn't pull 4423.
It's because the numbering is messed up.
Oh.
I thought it was correct. It's my fault. The one that you were right. You were right.
That's the $8 million of limited tax revenue bonds. Who's handling that? Mr. Brister.
This is the one we want to remove.
We want to remove.
So moved. Move to remove.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion? Please vote.
Mr. Gould? Yes. Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
Okay, on appeals, we have, we've taken care of one of them. I think there might be a change in the other one, I'm not sure. Pamela Bertucci and Johnny V. Jim Garden appealing the zoning commission approval of a major amendment to 188.54 plan unit development. Has that been approved? Has that been pulled or anything? Who's representing? Who? Nobody.
Ms. Ryan,
Need
if you would
hear
like to
the
come up.
appeals.
The appeals moving forward.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Ms. Blanchard. I'm Paul Marone on behalf of the developer of the project. To my knowledge, the appellants are not here this evening, so we would respectfully request your approval and concurrence with your staff's recommendation of approval and the approval granted by the Zoning Commission for our amendment to this PUD. Just to clarify for the record again, because there was some confusion at the last meeting, we are only requesting an amendment for the purpose of creating single-family resort-style homes. There is no multifamily whatsoever with regards to our request. With that said, we would request your approval, and I'll be happy to answer any questions any of the councilmen may have.
I do have a constituent that turned in a card and would like to speak.
Oh, we do?
You want the motion? I have a motion to concur the zoning, but I'd like, we have a second.
No, is she going to speak on which side? Yeah. You hear that before you put the motion on the floor.
Your name, please?
Faith Moran.
Okay, Mr. Moran.
Faith Moran, 104 Herring Drive, Slidell, Louisiana, 70461. I just want to say that I agree with the Planning Commission's approval of the petition, and I am against the objection to it. I agree with the Planning Commission to approve it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. The motion I did the motion to concur zoning.
Paul.
I have a second.
Is there another one?
One more.
Paul?
Paul Siving Kettle, 106 Moray Drive, Regules Estates. I concur with the zoning commission. This will only increase the value of our present homes. And in the long term, we're going to have better access on Highway 433, a new water plant, a new storage plant, and hopefully a fire station put out that end of the parish. Real quick, I know this isn't covered. Last month, the bridge on 433 was out for 1 month. If we had a fire, they would have had to come from the end of Gauze and military to get there, 15 miles. I could have got the New Orleans Fire Department from the other side of the shipment to it, and they would have got there quicker. So that's just part of what we expect to happen once this is approved and it gets going.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Michelle?
Yeah, I just have a brief discussion. I did receive a number of emails in support, and most of the people that were against changed their opinion once they found out it was not multi-family, and that was zoned single-family. And I appreciate Paul correcting the record and making sure that there's no doubt that this is not meant to be multi-family residence. I'll ask this to be attached to our minutes, which is the emails that I received in support of it. And I want to thank the community on both sides for coming out and discussing this very passionate issue and coming to the terms that we will have planning issues that we will watch and monitor very closely as this develops, if it should ever develop. So with that, I'd call the question.
Did you make a motion?
I did make a motion,
Okay.
and it was
And
seconded.
Those area discussion. I saw a light come on, I thought. Anybody? Please vote.
Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
I'd like to introduce the ordinance.
Motion made and seconded with the ordinance be introduced. Ordinances for adoption. Ordinance calendar 5428 AA. Ordinance to amend and reenact Chapter 18, Article 3 and 4 of the Parish Code of Ordinances relative to the St. Tammany Planning Commission and Zoning Commission.
Motion to adopt.
Motion to adopt, seconded. We got somebody wanting to talk. Carla?
Am I the only one that wants to talk on this one?
I think so.
It's been talked for about 6 months.
Yes, and I've been talking about it for a while myself into the Planning and Zoning Commissions. You can check the record. The first item I'd like to deal with is the Planning Commission membership. And it's the same for the Zoning Commission membership. And I will read A, B, and C. A, the membership shall be composed of 11 members. B, the parish president shall have the unilateral and exclusive right to appoint 2 members. These exclusive appointments by the parish president do not require action by resolution or ordinance. C, the parish council by resolution shall have the unilateral and exclusive right to appoint 9 members. So that's the same for both the planning and the zoning commission. They're identical. Now, state law reads, and I'm reading from Title 33, Municipalities and Parishes, Chapter 103, C1H1, and it reads, notwithstanding any other provision of this section to the contrary, the governing authority of St. Tammany Parish may set the membership of the St. Tammany Parish Planning Commission at not less than 14 members, each member being a resident of the police jury district for which he is appointed. Then I will read now from the Home Rule Charter. The Home Rule Charter does not specifically deal with the planning and zoning commissions. However, it does deal with administrative boards and commissions, which I think would be affected by this. And I will read Section 8-06, Administrative Boards and Commissions, of which this was not being amended or proposed to be amended. B, the council and the president may appoint members to boards and commissions as provided in ordinances and general state laws creating such boards and commissions, provided that no board or commission shall be composed of an even number of members, and the number of board or commission members shall not be the same as the number of council members. So we have,
2 minutes.
may I finish my?
Sentence.
I would recommend, although I had more than one sentence, I would recommend that you consider adding members to the Planning and Zoning Commission as allowed by state law in the order of, if you want to continue, 2 for the parish president, then 13 for the parish council, of which then a total of 15 would be appointed. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Gene?
Thanks, Mr. Chair. If I remember correctly, Steve or some of the, and maybe TJ and Chris would remember, there was an ordinance put through in the year 2000 that established this, and I think it was amended one other time that set it at the 9 and 2. So that went through a public hearing process. As far as I'm concerned, it's good.
Do I hear a motion to adopt?
Question. Question.
I have
Question.
Question called for.
Question.
TJ, I'm sorry.
Can you see this light down there?
I can't see it. You had the paper in front of it.
No. But anyway, I think Mr. Carlos poses a very interesting question. I want to pose my question to council as relates to the state constitution and the Home Rule Charter. And the difference in the verbiage, as I appreciate it, one says shall in the Home Rule Charter, and one says may in the state constitution. And I understand that difference. But the Home Rule Charter, what it states, even with the ordinance that Gene referred to, does it give precedence over what the state constitution says as relates to?
The Home Rule Charter doesn't, in this particular situation, take effect, and Gene is correct. There have been 2 ordinances. There is a provision in the Home Rule Charter that gives this council, the parish president with this council, the opportunity to reorganize government, including zoning, planning commissions, and the other commissions that are directly under the council. And in that case, Gene is absolutely correct. There were 2 ordinances that addressed the membership of not just the commission, but the vote required of those commissions in order to adopt certain things and move it forward. So it does, in fact, and Gene is absolutely correct.
And I appreciate that explanation, but it still doesn't speak to the question that I really was asking. And that has to do with the 2 ordinances that he's referring to were adopted by this council, by the parish government, rather, in reference to the Home Rule Charter. I think I was speaking to the legal counsel, if you don't mind, Mr. Cook. And so that's where my question still lies. One says may, and one says shall, but even though the Home Rule Charter under the parish government stated that, it does not supersede what, or it does supersede what the state constitution says?
It depends on the issue, and only when there's a conflict. Looking at the grand scheme of it, there is no conflict. Parishes are permitted to have home rule charters to govern themselves. In this particular situation, the charter provides. So in this case, the charter supersedes that particular provision, which would give the authority to this council to set the number of members of the Planning and Zoning Commission.
Thanks for that explanation.
Any other discussion? Please vote.
Yes. Verbal.
With a verbal vote from Mr. Canulette, motion is unanimous, 1 absent.
Ordinance calendar 5435, no, yeah, AA ordinance to declare multiple tax adjudicated properties as surplus property and authorize the parish to proceed with the process of advertising and sale of adjudicated properties.
So moved.
Motion made in second. Discussion. Please vote.
Yes.
Ms. O'Brien? Motion is unanimous, 1 absent.
Ordinance calendar 5450, ordinance to amend ordinance to establish a no parking zone on portions of Huntwick Village subdivision.
Move to adopt.
Smith and Belisario. Discussion? Yeah. Please vote.
Motion is unanimous, 1 absent.
Ordinance calendar number 5451, ordinance authorizing the parish president to enter into a servitude agreement with AT&T for placement of communication equipment at the Soul Street well site.
So moved.
Groby and Falconer, any discussion? Please vote. What'd he say?
He's still here.
Motion is unanimous, one absent.
Ordinance calendar 5452, an ordinance to amend Parish Code regarding provisions and consumption of alcohol beverages at Camp Salmon, the Fishing Pier, and St. Tammany Trace. Who did that? Who moved?
I did.
Belisario and Canulette. Any discussion? Please vote.
Mr. Gould? Motion is unanimous, one absent.
Which one do we do? 6. Ordinance to correct the road and drainage inventory, wards 3, 5, 6, and 10, wards, districts 5 and 6.
Mr. Chairman, I have one question. Is this also have the South Street right-of-way in there off of 4th Avenue? Shannon? The South Street right-of-way, is that in this ordinance that we're talking about right now, Oak Knoll Road? It is in there. Okay, thank you.
Got a motion? Mr. Goode, Mr. Thompson, any discussion? Please vote.
Motion is unanimous, one absent.
Ordinance calendar 5454, ordinance amending the official parish zoning map to reclassify 1.83 acres from A4 to ED1, Ward 1, District 4.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Falconer, Mr. Gould? Thompson. Any discussion? Please vote.
Motion is unanimous, one absent.
Ordinance calendar number 5455, an ordinance amending the official parish zoning map to reclassify 30.03 acres from A3 to A3 and the mobile home overlay, Ward 6, District 11.
Moved by Stefanczyk.
Mr. Stefanik,
Second by Gould.
who seconded? Ordinance made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Please vote.
Mr. Gould?
You see you seconded, you see you didn't vote.
Motion is unanimous, one absent.
Ordinance calendar 5456, an ordinance amending the official parish zoning map to reclassify 2.86 acres from A1 to A1 in mobile home overlay, Ward 3, District 2. Sharp and Thompson. Any discussion? Please vote.
Motion is unanimous, one absent.
Ordinance calendar 5457, an ordinance amending the official parish zoning map to reclassify 1.32 acres from HC1 and NC4 to A4A, Ward 3, District 2. Sharp, Thompson, discussion. Please vote. Ordinance calendar 50, oh, I'm sorry, you didn't get to vote yet? They slow voting, I know.
Very slow. Motion is unanimous, one absent.
Ordinance calendar 5458, ordinance to amend the 215 operating budget, amendment number 9.
So moved.
Stefanczyk and Belisario. Any discussion? Seeing none, please vote.
Mr. Gould? Motion is unanimous, one absent.
Ordinance calendar 5459, an ordinance to amend the parish code regarding lighting district number 4 to amend the boundaries thereof.
So moved.
Stefanczyk, Belisario. Discussion? Please vote.
Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
Ordinance calendar number 5460, an ordinance to amend ordinance calendar council series number 132955 adopted in June of 2013 regarding a major amendment to PUD Plan Unit Development Overlay for 16.811 acres parcel of land located in Vandrew Drive and east of Hollycrest Lane, Ward 3, District 5.
So moved.
Gould and Thompson. Any discussion? Please vote.
Motion is unanimous, one absent.
Ordinance calendar number 5461, an ordinance amending the official parish zoning map to reclassify 1.97 acres from NC4 to A3 to HC2 Highway Commercial, Ward 9, District 11.
So moved.
Stefanczyk, Belisario. Discussion? Please vote.
Motion is unanimous, two absent.
Next is appointment, a resolution to reappoint Martin Bruno to the St. Tammany Parish Development District.
So moved.
Belisario and Canulet. Any discussion? Please vote.
Motion is unanimous, two absent.
I have two items in a off-the-floor agenda. I need a motion to accept these.
So moved.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion. Please vote. Unanimous vote required.
While we vote, Mrs. Fonzik, Mr. Tanner, I'd like to say something real quick.
Sure.
About tonight. The men and women of the emergency services, the police, the fire departments, the ambulance of this parish are all, outstanding. They do great work. When you see them, you need to thank them. And, it's our job to help try to keep them safe. And it really bothers me when we have this kind of discussion about what's going to happen to the people that put it out there for us every day. So when you see them, you thank them, because they definitely deserve it.
Thank you.
Mr. Smith?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, while we're getting ready to vote on the off the
We
floor.
need you to vote.
I know, but I'm asking a question before you do that. I just wanted to
Oh,
know
I'm sorry.
could you tell us by introduction only what these two off the floor items are? Just by title, maybe?
Well, one
No, I
of
don't.
them is a change in the capital improvement list for parish-wide funds, which is Fund 300, District Roads, Funds 301 to
Okay.
314, Drainage, Stefanczyk.
I got them
And the
now.
other one is an executive session that we are requiring on the lawsuit.
Motion is unanimous, two absent.
Number one, resolution, a resolution to amend the ordinance calendar 143246 to make changes in the capital improvement list parish-wide. Fund 300 District Roads, Funds 301 through 314 Drainage.
So moved, and I'll explain when we get it
Mr.
done.
Stefanczyk, Mr. Belisario. Steve?
Yeah, we were trying to get this on the 300 thing so it would go out the end of this year, and this didn't get completed until late in the process, so, and we were going to amend the one that was on there tonight, but because of all the number changes, we decided to put it on a separate resolution. So would appreciate everybody supporting that. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Please vote.
Motion is unanimous, 2 absent.
I need a motion to
Move we
go.
go into executive session to discuss Michael S. Adams for St. Tammany Parish Government.
Mr. Fonzick and O'Brien. Please vote.
Somebody didn't vote. Motion is unanimous, 3 absent.
You hear a motion?
You want,
And vote on coming back in, please. I'm sorry.
Ms. Blanchard? Motion is unanimous, 3 absent.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we recommend settling the case with Michael S. Adams as presented to us by our legal counsel.
Motion made and seconded that we settle the case as pertaining to our legal counsel. Any discussion? Please vote.
Mr. Sharp? Mr. Sharp? Motion is unanimous, 3 absent.
The motion to adjourn.
So moved.